Yo, it's the goddamn Kyle Chan and it's spiraling out of control. They're screaming Kyle forever like there's some fucked up soul. They yell Kyle is awesome like I give a flying fuck. It's a goddamn meme now, man, just a bunch of stupid luck. They're hollering we Kyle people like there's some fucking tribe, like some creepy ass cult, and I wanna stab myself in the eye. They chant Osprey, 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 but replace it with Kyle like a bunch of goddamn morons that ain't got a brain or a mile. It's a fucking disease spreading through every goddamn seat like some viral shit, making everyone sound like complete retards on repeat. Holy Kyle, we want Kyle, it's a fucking plague, and I'm just sitting here wondering if I've gone totally insane or just a goddamn slave. Collision, holy shit, that's a fucking nightmare. Long ass matches, slow as fuck, like I'm dying in my chair. They got all this talent, but they hide it backstage, while the crowd's losing interest, turning into a fucking rage. They got wrestlers with heat, but they don't fucking care. They're just collecting paychecks, sitting on their ass in despair. They don't give a shit about story or the fucking build, just some stupid chant, and I wanna fucking kill. Adam Cole out here doing moves like he's the shit, but the crowd just screaming Kyle like they're having a fit. They don't give a damn about the storyline or the plan, just scream Kyle like some goddamn brainless fans. Collision's a fucking joke, it's a goddamn disgrace. They got all this talent, but they're wasting the fucking space. Slow starts, boring ass matches, it's a snooze fest, while the crowd's just angry, wishing they could get some rest. Storytelling, but it's just a load of shit. Like a bad soap opera, it's a fucking nightmare, I admit. They got the crowd's attention, then they just throw it away, and I sit here wondering why the fuck I even pay. Next week they'll do the same goddamn thing, no doubt. More Kyle chants, and I wanna scream and fucking shout, Jesus Christ, can't they see it's all just a fucking joke? This whole damn show's a nightmare, and I'm about to go broke. And all the talent they got, goddamn it's a shame. They could be make or break, but they're just playing the same. Slow, shitty, predictable, like some recycled shit, while the crowd's just a bunch of brain-dead dipshit. So here's a message to the fucking booker, the writer, the boss: stop fucking around or you're gonna end up at a loss. Because if you keep pushing this bullshit, this stale-ass trash, you'll turn every fan into a bitter, angry, pissed-off ass. Goddamn, Kyle, why you gotta be so fucking hot? Your name's in every fucking show like a viral plot, but I'll keep watching, cause I love the chaos and the mess. Just don't forget, this whole fucking thing's a cesspool of stress.
So tonight, motherfuckers, I'm reviewing AEW Collision, which was held in some godforsaken arena in Kent, Washington, that only holds about 6,500 souls, if you're generous, and they managed to scrape together a crowd of 2,650. That's fucking embarrassing. This is a double tap show, meaning they filmed Dynamite and Collision on the same fucking night. So instead of selling out for 2 nights and packing in 13,000 fans, they're sitting there with less than half that, 1,300 per show, and wondering why the show feels dead like a corpse in a morgue, or my older brother's 40-year-old virgin, cock and balls. There's a reason why it's lackluster, and it's not just a shitty attendance. They missed yet another golden opportunity to build a fucking monster match for AEW All In. But nope, they're too busy planting seeds that probably won't grow, or worse, fucking planting weeds. During the main event, we got Kyle Fletcher versus Kyle O'Reilly. Yeah, a match that was fine, whatever, but the post-match beatdown? That was the only thing that actually got my interest. Here's an idea. Imagine if Lance Archer and Fletcher bloodied up O'Reilly so badly that Adam Cole, that emotional wreck, lost his shit and challenged Fletcher for the TNT title All In. Like a revenge story, a real fucking feud, not some half-ass tease. That's the kind of shit that makes fans care. But no, AEW doesn't care about making a complete thought-out match card for all, and that is compelling feuds and storylines. And let's talk about seeds. They're planting seeds all over the place like a gardener with no plan. Nick Wayne and Christian Cage challenging the Hurt Business? Fine. I like the idea, but I've seen this before, promising something big, then forgetting about it. The Gates of Agony want to join Ricochet and form a faction? That's actually a good idea. Ricochet, the smart-ass storyteller, working with 2 big muscleheads who are usually just jobbers? That a dynamic that could turn some heads if they actually give a shit. But instead, they'll probably sit on this idea and do nothing, because AEW loves to tease greatness and then forget what they promised. The women's division? After Sky Blue versus Queen Aminata, a bunch of women come down to ring to establish the lineup for the Women's Casino Gauntlet match. It's a good visual, Show the fan they got talented women. But the question is, what the fuck happens after All In? Do these women get a real push? Or is it just another placeholder? Another look at what we could do moment before going back to the same old shit? And honestly, watching this show, I felt like I was just wasting my fucking time. My mind was full of voices asking, how much longer? When's this shit gonna end? It was like a 2-hour rampage, just a bunch of matches thrown together with no real purpose. No story, no build, just a bunch of dudes wrestling and hoping something sticks. The opening was the Outrunners versus FTR segment, and FTR really struggles with being extremely long-winded and boring. I thought I was watching baseball with how drawn out and boring this was. Stokely says, you want to make FTR the enemies? What could we have done to offend you? Either Dax or Cash says, we started to look out for FTR, everyone, Adam Copeland, you, Damon Garcia, had a problem with it. And then FTR decided to give the Outrunners a present, which is a 1980 sluking video montage of these two teams exercising and celebrating in the ring together. FTR continues their banter by saying, you went after tag team titles, you lost. People saw you as a joke and a meme. These people don't care about you, and the crowd is going to turn on you the same way they turn on FTR. You'll never be making FTR money. The Outrunners respond, one thing that you're dead wrong about is that I will be damned if these people will ever stop believing in the Outrunners. Our mistake is believing in you. We are put on this earth to wrestle, entertain, and whoop FTR's ass. Stokely responds, if you want to fight FTR, we'll do it next weekend in Ontario, California. So imagine, after hearing a very passionate response from the Outrunners, if they challenge FTR to a match at All in Texas. Once again, because the Ontario, California show is celebrating the 300th episode of Dynamite, you're taking a really great match from the biggest show of the year and putting it on the special show to boost ratings. The opening match was Christian Cage and Nick Wayne versus Big Bill and Brian Keith. The match had a very terrible start, with Brian Keith and Nick Wayne doing a bunch of slow grappling that went on way longer than it needed to. Big Bill does a scoop slam to Nick Wayne. Brian Keith does a send onto Nick Wayne and Christian. Big Bill does a splash onto Christian, a big boot onto Nick Wayne, and then Christian, and then he does a black hole slam onto Nick Wayne. Brian Keith does a powerbomb onto Nick Wayne. Mama Wayne causes a distraction, so the referee doesn't count the pinfall. Nick Wayne does a super kick and gets a pinfall on Brian Keith. For the opening match, I give Christian Cage and Nick Wayne versus Big Bill and Brian Keith 2 out of 5 stars. I was very happy that Nick Wayne got the pinfall, and this helps him out a lot, because it makes him feel like a bigger deal if he's pinning opponents instead of Christian doing that. That is how you build new stars. If he continues to pin people in every single match, it's going to make him feel like a bigger and bigger deal. So hopefully they keep this up. And I give them points for working harder to make Nick Wayne a star. He's been on the roster for over a year and has done a lot of really great matches. So he's transitioned from being Darby Allin's friend to somebody who's putting in the grind. When you see him build momentum, it doesn't feel like nepotism or being friend of somebody. He actually works for a spot, unlike Wheeler Yuta. Next, there's a backstage segment where they talk to MVP. Montel warns Christian and Nick Wayne not to challenge the Hurt Syndicate. Christian says, I've learned to never trust a criminal, which is a burn against Montel having a criminal past. He continues burning Montel by saying he is a worse criminal than he is a worse manager. MVP retorts, spitting that hot fire by saying, I wish you good luck because you'll need it. So once again, imagine if MVP came down the ring. And this is all said on the microphone in front of the audience. Like, the segment would pop a lot more. So once again, you have the right people with Christian and MVP who know how to jab people and get a great reaction from the audience whenever they speak on the microphone. Doing this shit backstage is almost like having the best dish at a restaurant stay within the kitchen. The second match was Brody King and Templario versus Hechicero and Rocky Romero. Hechicero does a shoulder tackle on Templario. Templario retaliates with a head scissors on Hechicero. Romero does a dropkick on Brody King, and Brody doesn't fall into the ringside area. I appreciate them doing this because in old AEW, they would have had Brody King fall to the ground. But here, they're showing that he's big and powerful. So a smaller guy doing a missile dropkick isn't going to hit him off his hot topic looking ass. Brody King does a senton onto both opponents. Brody King does a cannonball on Hechicero, which is a kick-ass move. Templario does a rope walk and then a double foot stomp on Hechicero. Brody King wins the match by hitting a gonzo bomb on Rocky Romero. I would give this match 2 out of 5 stars. The reason is because they didn't establish who these two luchadors are. You have to familiarize your American audience with Mexican wrestlers, not just have it there for no reason. And then, isn't Brody King in the House of Black? What happened to Buddy Matthews? Also, why is Julia Hart, who is part of the group with Sky Blue, like, the House of Black fell apart without that being explained? Once again, Don Callis' family is in their cliche role of losing to the baby faces. They're supposed to be formidable assassins and hitmen, but they really are the jobber team. That's why I call them the Team Rocket of AEW. This is a really great showing of Brody King, and they also miss another opportunity because it's later announced that there's a fatal four-way for the number 2 entrance spot in the men's casino gauntlet match. So imagine if Brody King was cutting a promo about that, talking about being the next AEW champion with that opportunity. That would have elevated him, and it would have been a really great tie-in. The next segment was Mercedes Moné backstage. I don't remember anything she said, but it almost made me throw up that she had stickers of Toni Storm on the bottom of her shoe. That just looks gross to me. But I understand what she's doing. I'm going to start calling Mercedes Rochelle, like Rochelle from Everybody Hates Chris, because she's definitely living up to the privileged champion snob character, the same way Rochelle from Everybody Hates Chris lives up to that ghetto snob persona. So I'll call her Rochelle from now on to be funny. Toni Storm comes down to the ring and responds to Mercedes. So once again, what a surprise. You have someone like Toni Storm, who's very old with the audience, go to the crowd and respond instead of doing a backstage segment. Imagine if Anthony Bowens, Brody King, Christian and his family, and MVP did the same. The show would have been a couple of letter grades better. They would make their feuds a bigger deal, and it would be more appropriate because you want Collision to feel like stories are being told and that it matters. So, what better way to emphasize it than having people speak in front of a crowd when they can speak while holding a microphone? Seems like good wrestling fundamentals. So Toni Storm does her typical sexual comedy, saying, "I will tic-tac-toe with your tits, and my friend will play cornhole with your asshole." Mina Shirakawa interrupts and mentions she has a match with Mercedes next week, and tells Toni Storm, "Whatever you do, don't get involved." And their dialogue teases that Toni Storm and Mina are in some hot lesbian action relationship. It's typical sexual comedy from Toni Storm, even though I feel like they care about each other. If they did something next Wednesday, where Mina gets bloody and destroyed by Mercedes, making the storyline very heartfelt and compelling, that would elevate it. But I think they'll just keep in the realm of sexual comedy, and unfortunately, that's probably where it's headed. If they actually made Mercedes a psychopath bloodying Mina next week, that would pop the crowd and make for a very compelling all-in moment. I hope AEW is listening and steals my idea to elevate this feud, so it's not just a bunch of sexual comedy. The next match was Megan Bayne versus a jobber. Megan hits a butterfly suplex and a fate descent. And then Anthony Bowens is backstage, saying he's going to enter the casino battle royale. He also mentions that he's leaving Billy Gunn at home because he feels that's best instead of having him as a ringside manager. And once again, Anthony Bowens gets loud and emphatic. So why do you have him backstage when he could be talking to the crowd, spitting that hot fire and getting over? The 9 o'clock main event was Josh Alexander versus Adam Cole for the TNT Championship. This starts very slow, and I've noticed that this has been a pattern for a lot of the matches tonight. Sometimes you need matches to start with a lot of quickness. Adam Cole hit a cutter. Alexander responds with middle rope crossbody. Adam hit a backstabber. Alexander does a forward fallaway slam, and then a running knee from the top rope. Adam Cole hits the Panama Sunrise. Alexander uses the ankle lock. Adam Cole hits the super kick a few times, and then the boom finisher. I give this 3 out of 5 stars. I'm happy that there's a purpose to match because Adam Cole has a feud with the Don Callis family, and he gave them an open challenge. So this doesn't feel like a match coming out of Tony Khan's wet dreams. However, you have 2 matches where the Don Callis family lose. It's also bad for Josh Alexander because he's a former TNA champion and held that title for over a year. I bet he wishes he was back in TNA, being booked well instead of losing in short matches. He should be like Kyle Fletcher and Kanesu Takeshita, where he's allowed to have longer, more competitive matches. I really feel he's being extremely underutilized, and his potential isn't being recognized. I give him a lot of criticism for that. The other thing that bothers me is that Josh Alexander, in every picture of him, has a lot of muscles. He honestly looks like Kurt Angle. So Adam Cole looks like an out-of-shape high flyer. It's just a bad visual. A guy with muscles losing against someone who looks like a cruiserweight that's had way too many pepperoni pizzas and nachos. After that, Ricochet walks to his car, and AR Fox asks him why he walked out on the match and left him to get his ass kicked by Speedball and Kevin Knight. The Gates of Agony ambush AR Fox, completely destroy him, and hold him against a gate by his throat. After proving themselves, they want to talk to Ricochet about being recruited for his faction. I really like this because the Gates of Agony, while they haven't been hitting with the audience, I appreciate that they're not sitting at home collecting a paycheck. They want to get out there and be used. Even though they lose a lot of matches, they deserve a revamp. If Ricochet can be the leader of that faction, I would be behind it. He's a smartass, a high flyer, and he knows how to tell stories and develop feuds. He can make sure AEW has a storyline that goes a few weeks without plot holes or dropping the story. For him to lead a faction and do it well, I am all for that. I'm really proud of all 3 of them, and I wish them the best. I hope this leads to a great storyline. The next match was Sky Blue versus Queen Aminata. Sky Blue hit the big boot and rising knee strike. She does a twisting suplex off the ring apron and a fallaway slam. Aminata does a but slam and a running knee. Once again, they can't get away from the sexual comedy. Sky Blue does a top rope double knee stomp. Aminata does a running knee, and Sky Blue loses once again. Why is Julia Hart and Sky Blue a thing? Wasn't Sky Blue part of the House of Black? So it's another big plot hole. I give the match 2 out of 5 stars. It was nothing special for me. And then you have the cliche of Sky Blue losing again. It is announced that there's going to be a 4-way, and the winner of that at AEW 300 Dynamite next week will be the second entrant in the men's Casino Battle Royale match. Really quick, the Casino Battle Royale works like this. 2 people enter the ring, and then others come in every few minutes, just like the Royal Rumble. But the way it works is that whoever gets the first pinfall wins the gauntlet and earns the opportunity to face the AEW champion anytime, anywhere, just like Money in the Bank. The benefit of being the first 2 to enter is that if you get a pinfall before the 3rd, 4th, or 5th person, you can win the match without the others even joining. So it's going to be Brody King, AR Fox, MJF, and Anthony Bowens. While I understand Brody King because he's been winning matches, and MJF is a former AEW champion, Anthony Bowens has been on a losing streak. But he's very over with the audience, so I'll give him a pass. But why the fuck is AR Fox in this match? He loses all the time, and didn't he get his ass kicked 2 segments ago? That makes no sense. They could have easily put Orange Cassidy, Max Caster, or Claudio Castagnoli in this. Someone who actually has a shot, instead of a guy who loses all the time. The main event was Kyle Fletcher versus Kyle O'Reilly. Unfortunately, I wasn't paying much attention to this match because the crowd was making fun of how their names were Kyle. You heard Kyle forever, and Kyle is awesome. They also did the Osprey chant, but replaced Osprey with Kyle. You also heard We Kyle People, which is a spoof of We Hurt People. You also heard We Want Kyle, Holy Kyle, and We Want Kyle again. Once again, Kyle Fletcher fails to be a villain. He basks in the moment because it's funny to him. So he doesn't understand that when you're a villain, you have to play the crowd in a certain way. If you find something funny, you can't react to it like that. I just don't think he cares and isn't being held accountable for that. During the match, O'Reilly hits a guillotine choke and a triangle choke while Fletcher is doing a powerlift, showing Fletcher's strength as those submissions happen on his body. O'Reilly does a top rope knee. They exchange leg locks. Fletcher hits a running knee strike, and when he does, the audience yells, "You sick Kyle," instead of "You sick fuck." O'Reilly does offense, sending Fletcher into a ringside chair. While Fletcher is sitting in the chair, O'Reilly runs off the ring apron and lands on Fletcher, who's in the chair, which looks very vicious and brutal, sending the steel chair's metal into his body by compression. Fletcher hits a running knee and a brainbuster after Lance Archer does a choke slam to O'Reilly and other interference. I give the match 3 out of 5 stars, because there's a purpose to why the match happens. A feud between the Paragon and the Don Callis family. They wrestled well and are very competitive, which is appropriate. But I really feel that many of my suggestions to make these matches more compelling, like doing some shocking stuff, would make these matches hit a lot harder. You're not emotionally invested in these characters unless you're a hardcore AEW fan. They don't do enough character development or have these guys do anything outside the ring in stories or segments to make them more appealing. That would add a lot more juice to their matches. I appreciate the post-match beatdown on O'Reilly. But when Adam Cole made the save, they didn't have Cole grab the mic and challenge Kyle Fletcher for the TNT Championship because he's sick and tired of Fletcher and the rest of the Don Callis family messing with his Paragon faction. My idea? Have Fletcher bloody O'Reilly, then show backstage footage of the Don Callis family locking Adam Cole and the Paragon in the locker room so they can't help O'Reilly while he's being assaulted. After all that, have the medical team take O'Reilly into an ambulance. That's when Adam Cole and the others are freed, and Cole sees all the violence. He then decides to fight Fletcher at All In, putting his title on the line, knowing Fletcher just wants the belt to mess with him. Cole, however, knows he can beat Fletcher and bring justice. My storyline is way more compelling because it's about a man standing up for his friends who are being bullied by Fletcher and the Callis family. Honestly, most of my ideas would really make the show pop. Overall, I give the show 1 out of 5 stars. You had a couple good matches and some build-up for next week, but once again, you didn't add matches to your All-In pay-per-view. That's the WrestleMania of AEW, almost 2 weeks away, at 18,500 out of 42,000 seat capacity. So why the fuck aren't you making every show a banger? Does AEW even know how to make every show a banger so that people want to see this event? And when you have wrestlers who can speak that hot fire on the microphone, especially for Collision, they should be in the ring doing all that shit. Collision is called the Saturday show, so I think many wrestlers on Dynamite shoot segments and then put them on Collision to avoid working on Saturday. But it would do a lot better if these guys actually spoke in the ring, told their stories live in the ring, and really sell their characters. Many of these wrestlers, Christian MVP, Anthony Bowens, Brody King, Tony Storm, give a fuck about getting over and aren't just doing the bare minimum. I truly believe they need a story underneath all this, where someone is behind the scenes pushing the pitches, and someone elevates them better. Because right now, they're just going through the motions, and it shows. Overall, this show was a missed opportunity to really build something special for All In. They have the talent, they have the crowd, and they have potential. If only they could put it all together instead of just throwing matches together and hoping something sticks. That's not how you build a pay-per-view that's supposed to be the biggest event of the year. It's not how you get new fans or keep the old ones excited. And frankly, I don't think AEW understands how to make every show a banger. If they did, every week would feel like a must-see, and not just a collection of matches that don't go anywhere. They need to invest in real storytelling, character development, and creative risk-taking. Otherwise, they're just spinning their wheels, hoping the fans keep coming back out of habit, not because they're genuinely excited for what's next.